Tejo stared out the small window of his transport ship as it approached the dead planet. Kepler 442c looked exactly like the old reports described it, gray, cold, and empty. The mining colony on its surface had been abandoned for 200 years. No one had bothered to come back. That was exactly what he wanted. The automated pilot spoke in a flat voice. Arrival in 30 minutes. Please prepare for landing. Tejo checked his equipment one more time. He had enough food and water for 10 years. His terraforming tools could fix almost anything. The fusion generator would give him power for decades. Everything he needed to live alone and forget about the rest of the human race. He thought about Mars again. About his team. About the explosion that killed them all while he was away getting coffee. The company had blamed equipment failure, but Tejo knew better. Someone had wanted his research stopped. Someone had decided his team was expendable. The ship shook as it entered the planet's thin atmosphere. Tejo gripped his seat and tried not to think about his friends' faces. That was the past. This empty world was his future. The landing was rough but successful. Through the window, he could see the old mining complex in the distance, dark metal buildings connected by covered walkways, solar panels that should have stopped working decades ago. Everything looked dead and abandoned, just like the report said. Tejo put on his environmental suit and stepped outside. The air was thin but breathable. The gravity was lighter than Earth's. He could feel the loneliness already settling into his bones. Good. That was what he wanted. He started walking toward the main complex. His boots crunched on the rocky ground. The only sound was his own breathing and the distant hum of something. That was strange. There shouldn't be any power here. As he got closer to the buildings, Tejo noticed something the orbital scans had missed. Strange crystal formations grew along the walls. They were beautiful, like blue and purple ice that glowed softly from within. They pulsed gently, almost like they were breathing. The main airlock still worked. That was impossible. The power should have died decades ago. Tejo checked his scanner. The atmosphere inside was perfect for humans. Temperature, oxygen, pressure, all exactly right. He stepped inside and removed his helmet. The air smelled clean and slightly sweet. The corridor lights came on automatically as he walked. Everything was in perfect condition, as if people had just left yesterday. Tejo followed the main hallway deeper into the complex. The crystal formations were everywhere inside, too. They seemed to be growing from the walls themselves, creating beautiful patterns of light and shadow. Some of them were as thick as tree trunks. Others were delicate as flower petals. He found the central control room. All the screens were working. Environmental systems showed green across the board. The computer logs ended exactly 200 years ago, but everything was still running perfectly. This is impossible, Tejo said aloud. His voice echoed in the empty room. What is impossible? Tejo spun around. A young woman stood in the doorway. She looked about 20 years old, with long black hair and dark eyes. She wore simple clothes that seemed to be made from some kind of fabric he didn't recognize, but there was something strange about her. Her skin had patches that looked almost like scales. Her eyes reflected light like an animal's. And were those small horns growing from her forehead? Who are you? Tejo asked. His hand moved toward the emergency beacon on his belt. The woman tilted her head. I am Sora. I live here. But I have never seen a man before. Are you really male? What do you mean you've never seen a man? Sora stepped closer. She moved with strange grace, like she was floating instead of walking. The old records show humans, but they were all female. The scientists who worked here long ago. Are you different from them? Tejo's mind raced. This made no sense. The colony had been evacuated completely. Men and women both. There shouldn't be anyone here, especially not someone who had never seen a male human. How old are you? He asked. I have lived for 93 years, Sora said simply. That was impossible. She looked barely 20. Unless... Tejo studied her strange features more carefully. The scales, the eyes, the horns. She wasn't entirely human. What are you? He whispered. Sora smiled. Her teeth were slightly pointed. I am Yongshin, what humans call Dragon Nymph. My grandmother was the last true dragon. I am only half. She gestured at the crystal formations around them. These are her gift. They keep this place alive. They wait for humans to return. Tejo felt his worldview shifting. Dragons, living crystals? A colony maintained by alien technology for 2 centuries? He had come here to escape the impossible complexity of human civilization. Instead, he had found something far more impossible. "You said you've never seen a man," he said slowly, "but you know our language. I learned from the old records. The female scientist left behind much information, but no records of males. I thought perhaps your species only had one gender." Sora walked to one of the control panels. She placed her hand on a crystal formation growing beside it. The entire room's lighting shifted to a warmer, more comfortable level. "I have been alone since my grandmother passed 27 years ago," she said. "I maintained her systems and waited. The crystals told me someone would come eventually." Teho felt a strange mix of fear and fascination. Everything he thought he knew about this world was wrong. Everything he thought he knew about humanity's place in the universe was wrong. "The crystals talk to you, not in words, in feelings, in knowledge." Sora looked at him with genuine curiosity. "You are very different from the females in the records, larger. Your voice is deeper. Your face has more hair." Despite everything, Teho almost smiled. "Yes, men and women are different, but we're the same species." "Fascinating. And you came here alone? Why?" The question hit harder than Teho expected. He had come here to escape pain, to avoid explaining what happened on Mars. But looking at Sora's innocent curiosity, he found himself wanting to tell the truth. "My friends died," he said simply. "I wanted to be alone." Sora's expression became sad. "I understand loneliness, but perhaps we do not have to be alone anymore." She gestured around the control room. "This place has waited long enough. If you wish to stay, I can show you how everything works. The crystals can teach you as they taught me." Teho looked around the impossible room filled with living crystal and alien technology. He had come here expecting to find emptiness and silence. Instead, he had found a mystery that could change everything humans thought they knew about the universe. And he had found Sora, a being who had waited nearly a century for someone to talk to. Someone who looked at him with wonder instead of pity or suspicion. Maybe running away from human civilization didn't have to mean running away from all companionship. "I'd like that," he said. Sora's smile was brilliant. "Then welcome home, Teho." She had somehow known his name without him telling her. But at this point, that was just one more impossible thing in a day full of impossibilities. As Sora began showing him how the crystal technology worked, Teho realized his quiet exile had become something entirely different. He had found a new world, a new kind of life, and maybe even a new purpose. The loneliness he had carried since Mars began to fade for the first time in months. 3 weeks had passed since Teho arrived at the colony. Every day brought new discoveries that challenged everything he thought he knew about science and technology. Sora was patient with his endless questions. She showed him how the crystals drew energy from the planet's core, how they purified air and water without any mechanical systems, how they somehow knew what the colony needed and provided it automatically. "Your grandmother created all this?" Teho asked as they walked through the hydroponics bay. Vegetables and fruits grew in perfect rows, tended by crystalline tendrils that moved like gentle fingers. "She guided it," Sora corrected. "The crystals are alive in their own way. Grandmother taught them to care for this place, to keep it ready for when humans returned." Teho watched a crystal tendril carefully water a tomato plant. The precision was incredible, better than any robot he had ever seen. "Why did she stay when the other dragons left?" Sora's expression grew sad. "She believed humans and Yongshin could learn from each other. The others thought humans were too destructive, too focused on taking instead of giving." They continued walking through the complex. Sora had shown him every room over the past weeks. Living quarters for 50 people, all maintained in perfect condition. Laboratories with equipment that mixed human technology with crystal formations. Workshops where metal and living crystal had been merged into tools that seemed almost magical. "The female scientists who worked here," Teho said. "Did they know about your grandmother?" "Yes, they worked together for many years. Grandmother learned human science. The humans learned crystal cultivation. It was a good partnership." Sora led him to a room he hadn't seen before. The walls were covered with screens showing star charts and navigation data. But the information was displayed in patterns of light within the crystals themselves, not on electronic displays. "This is how we see beyond this world," Sora explained. She placed her hands on a large crystal formation in the center of the room. The entire space filled with points of light like standing inside a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Teho gasped. He could see trade routes, colony locations, even ship movements in real time. The resolution was better than anything human technology could produce. The crystals can see this far? They are connected to crystal formations throughout the galaxy. Most are natural. Some were planted by my people long ago. Sora moved her hands and the display zoomed in on a particular system. This is where you came from, Mars. Tejo saw his old research station, saw the ships coming and going, saw the place where his team had died. The crystal display showed it all with perfect clarity. Can you see what happened there? He asked quietly. Sora looked at him with gentle eyes. Would you want me to? Tejo thought about it. Part of him wanted to know the truth about the explosion, but part of him was afraid of what he might learn. Maybe later, he said. Sora nodded and changed the display to show something else. Ships approaching their system. Still far away, but definitely heading toward Kepler 442c. Someone is coming, she said. Tejo felt his stomach drop. How long do we have? 3 months, perhaps 4. Can you tell who they are? Sora concentrated on the crystal. Information flowed through the light patterns in ways Tejo was beginning to understand. Corporate markings. Military escort. Heavy industrial equipment. They are coming to claim this place, Sora said. To take the crystals. Tejo had feared this might happen. His arrival had probably triggered some kind of automatic signal. The mining companies were always looking for new resources to exploit. What will you do? He asked. Sora was quiet for a long moment. I do not know. If I leave, the crystals will die without guidance. This place will become truly dead. But if I stay, they'll try to capture you, study you, use you. Yes, Tejo felt anger building in his chest. The same anger he had felt on Mars when he realized his team had been killed for profit. The same anger that had driven him to this remote world in the first place. We won't let that happen, he said. Sora looked surprised. I'm not leaving you to face this alone. Over the following days, Tejo threw himself into learning everything he could about the crystal technology. Sora taught him how to communicate with the crystals through touch and focused thought. It was difficult at first. His human mind wasn't naturally compatible with their organic intelligence, but gradually he began to understand. The crystals weren't just tools. They were a form of life that thought in patterns humans couldn't easily grasp. They experienced time differently. They saw connections across vast distances. They remembered everything that had ever happened in their presence. They remember the first humans who came here, Sora explained as Tejo practiced connecting with a small crystal formation. They remember my grandmother teaching them human concepts. They remember the sadness when the humans left. Tejo felt flashes of memory from the crystal, images of scientists working alongside a magnificent dragon-like being. Moments of discovery and wonder. The pain of abandonment when the evacuation ships departed. They've been lonely too, he realized. Yes, we all have. As Tejo's connection with the crystals grew stronger, he began to see possibilities he had never imagined. Human engineering principles combined with crystal biology could create technologies that surpassed anything either species had developed alone. He spent hours in the workshops, designing hybrid systems, environmental suits that could survive in any atmosphere, energy sources that could power cities for centuries, communication networks that could span galaxies instantly. Your mind works differently than the female scientists, Sora observed as she watched him work, more focused on building things, on making connections between separate parts. Maybe that's what makes men and women different, Tejo said. Different ways of thinking that work better together. Like humans and Yongshin? Exactly like that. But even as they worked together and learned from each other, the approaching ships grew closer each day. Tejo could see them on the crystal displays, bringing advanced mining equipment and military vessels. Sora became more quiet as the deadline approached. She spent long hours communing with the crystals, preparing them for whatever was coming. There is something I must tell you, she said one evening as they shared dinner in the main common area. My people are watching. Your people? I thought they left this dimension. They did, but they can still see what happens here. They are concerned about these new humans coming. Tejo felt a chill. Concerned how? The dragons remember what happened to other worlds when humans arrived seeking resources. Entire ecosystems destroyed, native species enslaved or eliminated. Sora's eyes reflected the crystal light around them. They may decide to act. What kind of action? The kind that removes threats permanently. The implication was clear. If the dragons saw the approaching corporate fleet as a threat to Sora and the crystals, they might destroy every human ship in the system, including any chance for peaceful contact. Tejo realized their quiet time of learning and friendship was about to end. Soon they would have to face the worst parts of human nature, and the consequences might extend far beyond just this forgotten colony. The bridges they had built between their two species might be the only thing standing between humanity and a power that could erase them from the galaxy entirely. The first scout ship arrived on a Tuesday morning. Tejo watched it land through the crystal displays, feeling his peaceful months with Sora coming to an end. "They are scanning everything," Sora said, her hands pressed against the main crystal formation. "Their instruments cannot understand what they are seeing." Tejo could imagine the confusion on the scout ship. All their sensors would show impossible readings. Life signs that weren't quite biological. Energy patterns that didn't match any known technology. A colony that should be dead but was somehow thriving. "We should meet them," Tejo said, "before they do something stupid." Sora nodded, but he could see fear in her strange, beautiful eyes. What if they are like the humans from the old stories? The ones who destroy what they do not understand. Then we'll show them there's a better way. They walked to the main airlock together. Tejo felt nervous but also protective. Sora had become precious to him over these months, not just as a friend but as something deeper, someone who understood loneliness and chose connection instead, someone who saw wonder in everything. The scout team was already at the outer door, 3 people in standard exploration suits. Tejo opened the airlock and stepped outside. "I'm Lee Tejo," he called out. "Welcome to New Haven Colony." The team leader removed his helmet. He was a middle-aged man with captain's stripes on his uniform. His face showed shock and confusion. "Captain Park Dong-min, Colonial Survey Division." "Tejo? You're supposed to be missing. Presumed dead after the Mars incident. I came here to start over. Found something amazing instead." Captain Park looked past Tejo toward the colony buildings. The crystal formations were clearly visible, glowing softly in the thin sunlight. "What are those structures? Our sensors can't classify them." "They're alive," Tejo said simply, "and they're friendly. Would you like to meet their guardian?" Before Captain Park could answer, Sora appeared in the airlock. She had chosen to reveal herself fully, horns, scales, and all. The effect on the scout team was immediate. The 2 junior officers stepped back in alarm. One reached for his sidearm before Captain Park stopped him with a sharp gesture. "Fascinating," Captain Park breathed. "Indigenous intelligent life." "I am Sora," she said, her voice calm despite the weapons pointed in her direction. "I have maintained this place since the last humans departed." "I welcome you back." Captain Park studied her carefully. Tejo could see the man's mind working, evaluating threats and opportunities. "You speak perfect standard," the captain noted. "I learned from the archives. The female scientists left excellent records." "Female scientist?" Tejo stepped forward. "Captain, there's a lot to explain. Would you like to come inside? Sora can show you things that will change everything we think we know about technology." The tour of the colony took 3 hours. Captain Park and his team saw the crystal gardens that provided unlimited food, the biomechanical systems that maintained perfect atmosphere without any external power source, the communication arrays that could monitor events across the galaxy in real time. But what impressed them most were the hybrid technologies Tejo and Sora had been developing. Tools that combined human engineering with crystal biology to create impossibly efficient solutions. "This mining drill," Captain Park said, examining one of their creations. "It's completely organic, but it can cut through solid rock." "The crystals reshape matter at the molecular level," Tejo explained. "But they need human guidance to focus their efforts. That's what we've been working on, teaching them human concepts of precision and purpose." Sora demonstrated by touching the drill. It immediately began reshaping itself, extending new cutting surfaces and adjusting its form for maximum efficiency. "Incredible," one of the junior officers whispered. "It's like magic." "Not magic," Sora said gently. "Understanding. The crystals see patterns in matter that humans cannot perceive. Humans see goals and methods that crystals cannot imagine. Together, we can do things neither species could achieve alone." Captain Park was quiet for a long time after the demonstration. Finally, he spoke. "I need to report this to my superiors. This changes everything." "What will they do?" Tejo asked, though he suspected he already knew. "They'll want to study everything. The crystals, the technology, her." Captain Park gestured toward Sora. This could revolutionize human civilization. And what about Sora's wishes? Her people's rights? That's above my authority level. After the scout team left, Sora was unusually quiet. She spent hours communing with the crystals, receiving information that clearly troubled her. The dragons are angry, she finally told Taeho. They see more ships coming. Military vessels. Industrial platforms designed for strip mining. Taeho felt sick. He had hoped Captain Park would recommend a careful, respectful approach. Instead, it seemed like the corporate machine was gearing up for full exploitation. How long do we have? 6 weeks. Maybe less. Can your people protect this place? Sora's expression was torn between hope and fear. They can. But the cost would be terrible. They would have to emerge from their dimensional retreat. Return to this reality permanently. Many would die in the transition, and they would never trust humans again. Never. That night, Taeho lay awake thinking about everything that had led him here. The pain of losing his team on Mars. The isolation he had sought on this forgotten world. The friendship and growing love he had found with Sora. He thought about human nature, the drive to explore and discover, but also the tendency to exploit and destroy. The same impulses that had brought them to the stars had also left a trail of damaged worlds and extinct species. But he also thought about Captain Park's genuine wonder at the crystal technology, about the junior officer's awe at seeing matter reshape itself through biological will, about the possibilities that could emerge if humans learned to work with alien intelligence instead of conquering it. Sora, he said softly. She was sitting by the window watching the stars, yes? What if we could show them a different way? Not just the corporate executives, but ordinary humans. Show them what cooperation looks like instead of domination. How? By being living proof. By demonstrating that humans and your people can work together as equals. By creating something so beautiful and useful that destroying it would be obviously insane. Sora turned to look at him. In the crystal light, her scales shimmered like jewels. You would risk everything for this chance? Taeho thought about his dead friends on Mars, about all the other worlds where human greed had triumphed over human wisdom, about the choice between isolation and connection that had brought him here. Yes, he said, some things are worth the risk. Sora smiled, and for the first time since the scout ship arrived, it reached her eyes. Then we will need help. From your people and mine, can you contact the dragons? Yes, but convincing them will be difficult. They have little reason to trust human promises. Then we'll have to give them one. As they began planning their desperate gambit, Taeho realized he was no longer running from his past. He was running toward a future where humans and dragons might learn to build wonders together, instead of destroying them apart. The approaching corporate fleet would be their test, and the fate of both species might depend on what they learned about each other in the weeks to come. The corporate fleet arrived like a swarm of metal insects against the stars, 12 ships total. Mining platforms, processing stations, and military escorts. Leading them was the flagship Corporate Prosperity, a massive vessel designed to strip entire asteroids bare. Taeho watched their approach through the crystal displays, feeling his heart sink. This wasn't an exploration mission or even a standard colonization effort. This was an invasion force. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Sora said, her hands pressed against the communication crystals. They claim authority over the system under Human Colonial Expansion Act 2387. Of course they do. Taeho had seen this pattern before. Find resources, claim legal authority, exploit everything valuable, move on. The same process that had destroyed his team's research on Mars. The lead ship's message came through clearly. Attention unknown inhabitants of Kepler 442c. This system is now under corporate jurisdiction. Prepare for immediate evacuation and decontamination procedures. Taeho grabbed the communication controls. This is Lee Taeho, registered colonial engineer. I have legal claim to this facility under pioneer settlement rights. A new voice responded. Cold, professional, female. Mr. Lee, this is Director Kimbo Young of Stellar Mining Consortium. Your claim is void due to abandonment and failure to file proper documentation. You have 24 hours to surrender yourself and any assets for company evaluation. And if I refuse, then you will be classified as a hostile squatter and removed by force. The transmission ended. Taeho felt the familiar anger rising in his chest. The same corporate arrogance that had killed his friends. The same dismissal of human costs in pursuit of profit. They don't even know about me yet, Sora said quietly. When they discover what I am, they'll try to capture you. Study you. Use your connection to the crystals for their own purposes. Sora nodded. My people are watching. They are ready to act. Through the crystals, Tejo could sense them, ancient minds hovering at the edge of reality. Dragons older than human civilization, powerful beyond human understanding. They had withdrawn from physical existence to avoid conflict, but they could return if necessary. And when they did, the corporate fleet would simply cease to exist. We need more time, Tejo said. Can you delay them somehow? Yes, but it will reveal my presence. Do it. Sora placed both hands on the largest crystal formation in the command center. Her scales began to glow with inner light. The crystals throughout the colony resonated in harmony, creating a sound like distant singing. On the display screens, Tejo watched the corporate ships suddenly stop their approach. Their engines cut out. Their weapon systems went dark. They drifted in space, completely powerless but unharmed. Director Kim's voice crackled over the radio, full of rage and confusion. What is happening to our ships? What kind of weapon are you using? No weapon, Sora responded, her voice carrying through all their communication systems simultaneously. I am simply asking your machines to rest. They are tired from their long journey. Silence stretched across the void. Then Kim's voice returned, carefully controlled. Who is this? Identify yourself. I am Sora, guardian of this world. I have maintained this place for 93 years, waiting for humans to return. But I did not expect them to come with tools of destruction. More silence. Tejo could imagine the chaos on the corporate ships as their instruments tried to analyze what was happening to them. Guardian? What species are you? I am Yongshin, what humans called dragon. The reaction was immediate. Multiple voices shouting over each other. Demands for proof. Orders to analyze and capture. The word dragon had triggered every human fantasy and fear about mythical creatures. Captain Park's voice cut through the chaos. Director Kim, I recommend extreme caution. I've seen what this being can do. She's not hostile, but she's incredibly powerful. Captain, you will maintain radio silence unless directly addressed. This is a corporate operation now. Tejo felt sorry for Park. The man had seemed reasonable during his visit, but he was clearly outranked by people who saw only profit opportunities. Sora. Director Kim's voice had taken on a false sweetness. I'm sure we can work out some kind of arrangement. Perhaps you could visit our ship. We have much to discuss. I think not, Sora replied. But you are welcome to visit our home. Bring only small numbers. Come in peace and you will be welcomed. Unacceptable. We require you to surrender immediately for proper processing. Sora's expression hardened. I am not property to be processed. The standoff continued for hours. The corporate ships remained powerless, their crews growing increasingly desperate. Tejo used the time to contact Captain Park on a private channel. Captain, you've seen what cooperation can accomplish. Help me convince Director Kim to try a different approach. I've tried, Park replied quietly. She sees only the profit potential. Dragons, living crystals, hybrid technology, the company wants it all. And if they can't have it, they'll destroy it rather than let competitors get access. That evening, as both sides prepared for whatever would come next, Sora made a decision that changed everything. I must speak with my people, she told Tejo. The time for hiding is over. She led him to a part of the colony he had never seen before, a chamber deep underground where the largest crystal formations grew. They were massive here, some as big as buildings, and they hummed with power that made his teeth ache. Sora walked to the center of the chamber and began to sing, not with her voice, but with her entire being. The crystals responded, their light growing brighter and brighter until the entire space blazed like a star. And then they came. 3 figures materialized from light and shadow. Tall, graceful beings that shifted between human and dragon form as Tejo watched. Their presence filled the chamber with such power that he could barely breathe. The eldest spoke in a voice like distant thunder. Granddaughter, you have called us back to the world of matter, Elder Moonsick. Sora bowed deeply. The humans have returned, but they come with greed instead of wisdom. We know, we have watched. Moonsick's ancient eyes fixed on Tejo. And this one? This male who claims to speak for his species? Tejo felt like an insect under that gaze, But he forced himself to stand straight and speak clearly. I don't speak for all humans, but I've seen what we can become when we work together instead of trying to conquer everything we meet. Words, said another dragon. Humans excel at words that mean nothing. Then let me show you, Tejo said. He walked to one of the crystal formations and placed his hands on it, opening his mind completely. He shared everything, his memories of Mars, his grief for his lost team, his wonder at discovering Sora and the crystal technology, his growing love for this strange, beautiful being who had chosen to trust him. The dragons examined his memories with casual power that left him gasping. But when they withdrew, their expressions had changed. Interesting, Moonsick mused. This one speaks truth, at least about his own intentions. But what of the others above? Some can learn, Tejo said. Captain Park has already seen the wonder of cooperation. Others could follow his example given the chance. And those who cannot learn? Tejo thought about Director Kim's cold voice, about the corporate machines designed to strip worlds bare, about all the damage humans had done in their rush to expand and exploit. Then they need to be stopped, he said quietly, before they destroy something that could benefit everyone. The dragons exchanged glances that conveyed volumes of information Tejo couldn't follow. Very well, Moonsick said finally. We will test your species. 3 trials to determine if humans can grow beyond their destructive nature. If they fail, then we will ensure they can never threaten another world. The implication was clear. Pass the test or face extinction. As the dragons faded back into their dimensional refuge, Tejo realized the next few days would determine not just the fate of this colony, but the future of humanity itself. The first trial began at dawn. Elder Moonsick materialized in the colony's main courtyard, his dragon form magnificent and terrifying. The corporate ships hung powerless in the sky above, their crews forced to watch through their view screens. Humans of the metal ships. Moonsick's voice resonated across all communication channels. You have come seeking to claim what is not yours. We offer you 3 chances to prove your species worthy of partnership rather than destruction. Director Kim's response was immediate and predictable. We don't recognize your authority over human territory. Release our ships immediately or face the consequences. You speak of consequences to beings who have existed since your star was young. Moonsick's laugh was like distant thunder. Very well. Let us see what you truly value. The first trial was simple in concept, devastating in execution. Every person in the corporate fleet found themselves face to face with someone they had harmed through their actions. Mining executives saw the families displaced by their operations. Ship captains confronted the crews they had abandoned when profits demanded it. Directors faced the scientists whose research they had destroyed for competing with company interests. But these weren't mere visions. The dragon magic made the pain real, the consequences tangible. For 24 hours, every corporate employee experienced the full weight of the suffering their decisions had caused. Some broke down completely. Others raged against what they called impossible hallucinations. But a few, including Captain Park, began to understand. This is what we've been doing, Park whispered, as he comforted a crew member who was reliving the abandonment of an entire research station. This is what our progress really costs. The second trial followed immediately after. Each person had to choose between their personal gain and the well-being of others. But the dragon magic made the choices real and immediate. Save your career bonus or provide clean water to a poisoned colony. Keep your promotion or restore the ecosystem your mining destroyed. Maintain company profits or save the lives threatened by corporate cost-cutting. Director Kim failed this trial spectacularly. Even when faced with the direct consequences of her choices, she chose profit and power every time. But others surprised themselves. Junior officers who had never questioned orders suddenly found themselves willing to sacrifice personal advancement to help others. Engineers who had designed destructive machines began sketching plans for healing instead. Captain Park passed the second trial by choosing to resign his commission rather than follow an order to capture Sora by force. The third and final trial was the most challenging. Each person had to demonstrate that they could grow beyond their current limitations. They had to show genuine change, not just temporary remorse. This trial lasted 3 days. Under Dragon supervision, the corporate crews worked together to repair some of the damage their previous operations had caused. Using a combination of human technology and crystal assistance, they restored dead soil, purified poisoned water, and rebuilt ecosystems their mining had destroyed. It was hard work that required genuine cooperation between former enemies. Corporate executives had to take orders from environmental engineers. Military officers had to learn from alien technology they didn't understand. Everyone had to set aside their prejudices and preconceptions to work toward a common goal. Some couldn't do it. Director Kim and about a third of the corporate personnel failed to show any real change. They remained focused on finding ways to exploit the situation for personal gain. But the majority passed. They discovered that working to heal instead of harm felt better than they had expected. They learned that cooperation with alien intelligence produced better results than domination or exploitation. Captain Park emerged as a natural leader for this new approach. He organized teams that combined human engineering with crystal biology to create restoration technologies that surpassed anything either species had developed alone. When the trials ended, Elder Moonsik returned to deliver judgment. "Your species shows promise," he announced. "Some among you have demonstrated the capacity for growth and wisdom. Others remain trapped in destructive patterns." Director Kim tried one last desperate gambit. "You can't judge all of humanity based on a few individuals. We have rights under interstellar law. Laws written by those who refuse to acknowledge the rights of others." Moonsik replied calmly. "Your corporation's authority here is revoked. Those who wish to remain and learn cooperation are welcome. Those who cannot adapt must leave." The division was swift and clear. About 2/3 of the corporate personnel chose to stay and learn the new ways. They were fascinated by the crystal technology and eager to explore what human-dragon cooperation could accomplish. Director Kim and her supporters left in the remaining functional ships, threatening legal action and corporate retaliation. But their words rang hollow after the trials had exposed the emptiness of their values. In the months that followed, the colony transformed into something unprecedented in human history. New Haven Station became a beacon of interspecies cooperation, where humans and dragons worked together as equals. Taeho found himself serving as the first human-dragon liaison, helping to translate between two very different ways of thinking. His engineering background proved invaluable in finding practical applications for dragon wisdom. Sora blossomed in her new role as cultural ambassador. She helped humans understand dragon perspectives on time, consciousness, and the deep connections between all living things. In return, she learned human concepts of individual achievement, technological innovation, and purposeful change. Their relationship deepened into something neither fully human nor dragon but entirely their own. They became partners in every sense, working together, learning together, building a future together that neither species could have imagined alone. Captain Park proved to be an excellent administrator for the growing station. His military experience helped organize the complex logistics of the expanding colony, while his newfound understanding of cooperation kept the focus on mutual benefit rather than hierarchy. The technologies they developed together revolutionized human space exploration, biocrystal drives that could cross the galaxy in days rather than years, environmental systems that could terraform dead worlds using living technology, communication networks that allowed instant contact across any distance. But perhaps more importantly, they developed new ways of thinking about expansion and exploration. Instead of conquest and exploitation, humans began to approach new worlds as potential partners. They learned to look for existing life and intelligence rather than automatically assuming they had the right to claim everything they found. 5 years after the corporate fleet's arrival, Taeho and Sora stood together on the observation deck of their expanded station. Ships came and went regularly now. Research vessels, diplomatic missions, trading expeditions. Both human and dragon representatives worked side by side, exploring the galaxy together. "Do you ever regret staying?" Sora asked, her hand warm in his. Taeho thought about the question seriously. He had lost his old life, his human identity in many ways. He would never be fully accepted by either species, always existing in the space between worlds. But he had gained something infinitely more valuable. Purpose beyond personal ambition, love that transcended species boundaries, the chance to help shape a future where intelligence and wisdom mattered more than force and greed. "Never," he said. "This is exactly where I belong." Through the crystal displays, they could see new ships approaching from distant systems. Some carried humans seeking to learn the new ways. Others brought alien species curious about the partnership between mammals and dragons. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders. And for the first time in human history, they were approaching those wonders as friends rather than conquerors. Tejo had come to this forgotten world seeking solitude and escape. Instead, he had found connection and purpose beyond anything he had ever imagined. He had helped prove that humans could grow beyond their destructive patterns when they chose cooperation over conquest. And in Sora's eyes, he saw the reflection of all the incredible things they would discover together in the years to come. The future stretched ahead of them, bright with possibility and filled with the promise of wonders yet to be explored. Hand in hand, human and dragon, they walked forward into that shining tomorrow.